Hey everyone, welcome. My name is Mira and welcome to my YouTube channel. So before we get started, today I wanted to talk about the 5 things that really help me and my relationship to money. And I'm going to talk about how minimalism and having a minimalist like lifestyle or a minimalist thought process has really helped me and my approach to money and wealth, and therefore has knock-on effects on things like my career and my friendships, my family, my relationships, and also just like how my life is set up overall. So thanks for joining me. Okay, so the number one thing I want to talk about is many years ago, almost in 2012, I started reading this book called Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. It was, at the time it was quite a big deal. It was on a lot of TV, movies. There was a Netflix special. This is what the book looked like. And I read this book and it was so helpful. And I followed the book kind of step by step. I'm one of those people who's quite, I can be quite rule oriented. So if I read the book and those are the rules, I try and follow them as closely as possible. I did it and it was actually life changing. Like, I think I threw out so much stuff that I had accumulated, and I realized that I had so many things in my apartment at the time that were just like, oh, maybe I'll need this, or just in case, or my roommate was actually throwing out these beautiful like silk curtains, and I just kept them. I didn't even have a window that I could use those curtains in, so I just kept them because I thought, oh, well, maybe one day I'll need this like beautiful silk fabric. And while that is true, by the time I actually got rid of them, the silk had been damaged and I couldn't actually use them. They had been in like a box in a cupboard that smelled of mold. It wasn't, they weren't going to work. So I think by getting rid of those things and like not living for these what ifs, that was really helpful. And it really changed my relationship to how I think minimalism and stuff works anyway. And then the other thing that was really helpful this time is that I got rid of a lot of clothes that didn't fit me. So as a teenager and sort of like all my growing up years, I was always quite slim and petite, and I went through something in the middle of like my early 20s, late teens, early 20s, and I put on quite a lot of weight. And I think there was always a part of me that was like, oh, when I'm skinnier, I'll be able to fit into this. And it took me a really, really long time to like make that focus into being like, I'm not that skinny and that's okay. But I kept holding on to these clothes, being like, one day I'll be skinny and I can wear these clothes again. And I think part of what the Marie Kondo method taught me is like, I just got rid of those clothes, and now I buy clothes and I wear clothes that fit me for the weight that I am now, and it has helped so much because I also feel so much more confident. I feel really like nicely dressed, and I just genuinely enjoy getting dressed up to go outdoors, to like meet people. I feel like I have a lot more like fun with my own personal style. And that is something that definitely would not have happened if I had just kept all of these like 16-year-old skinny me would fit into these things. That would not happen. Okay, so the other thing about the second best thing that helped me with minimalism was being super careful about what I buy. So after I got rid of all of these things, and if you haven't read the book, go read the book. It's a great book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up by Marie Kondo. I did the process, I read the book, and then I got rid of a whole lot of my possessions all at once, and it was quite dramatic at the time. My husband nearly cried. He really struggled through it because it was a lot of work. And we were living in it was a one-bedroom apartment at the time. It was very small, but we got rid of a lot of different things, and when we moved a few weeks later, we were like, oh my gosh, that was so much easier because we just had less to transport, less to move. And what happened is after that, I started becoming a lot better at like not buying a lot of things and also getting rid of things regularly. So even now, like I'll quite often read papers and tear them up immediately and throw them out. I will usually clear out like big boxes of stuff. And I just don't have like, I try not to like keep a lot in storage. I try to like clear things out as they happen before I buy new things. And that's the second biggest learning for me from this whole process was actually learning to buy less. And I know that that's often very hard because we're millennials and we live in this world where like there's not a lot that we can buy. So when you can buy, you're like, let me buy things. But actually buying less stuff helped me immensely. I started like, for example, in my kitchen, using up all the things I had before trying to buy new things. And I started like buying more, like using up all the clothes I had, making sure that I had read all the books on my bookshelf before getting more things. And so instead of buying things, I learned that actually I valued a lot of like, there were a lot of other ways that you can get stuff. So a lot of times, like, I realized I used to go out and buy a new notebook every single time, but then I realized actually quite a lot of people gift me notebooks. And I had got a lot of notebooks that I wasn't using because I always felt like I needed to get a new notebook. That's just why. I also used to like go out and buy a lot of like new books. Like I would go buy a book if I wanted to read it, or I would just buy it on Amazon. Something that helped me is just like getting a library subscription. There were a lot of libraries that there's a lot of like access to books that I could get for very cheap or free. And it made me realize that there's a lot of ways to access things that are not buying things. Like you could just go and buy, you don't need to buy everything that you need. You can often find ways of like having those things and using them or circulating them or swapping them with friends. But when you do actually buy them, to just be quite mindful and careful of being like, okay, this is something that I really want to invest in or I really want to have in my life, and then to bite the bullet and spend. Okay. The third thing that really, really helped me, and this is advice that I actually got years ago from another YouTube channel called The Financial Diet. If you haven't followed them, go follow them. They helped me transform so much of my 20s, and I really think I would be in a very different financial situation if it wasn't for them. But one thing that they talk a lot about, and I find really helpful, is buying things that will last and are durable. So not buying things that are on trend or fashionable. That has helped me more than anything, is buying things that will last in terms of like clothing, but also like investing in things like my cookware so that I cook more at home, making sure you buy things like decent quality knives. And I know this is different, like depending on the people's budgets and where you are, but in your life, but if you can buy slightly better quality, and better price doesn't mean and and better quality doesn't always mean higher in price. But if you can get things that are slightly better quality and that will last you a little bit longer, then that that works really well. Okay. Now the fourth thing that I would say is super important and has really transformed my relationship with money is understanding why I was buying things in the first place. A lot of times I realized that I was buying things because I wanted to be seen a certain way or have people see me a certain way, and I wanted to be impressive to someone. So whether that was friends or family or even like acquaintances or um sometimes people at work, like I wanted to be seen as a particular type of person, and I wanted to be like, oh yeah, I'm a sustainable person, or I'm like a trendy person, or I'm like um like an organized person, or a stylish person. That was a big one. And actually, the more that I realized that I was doing this, um, the more conscious I was kind of like why I was buying certain things, and it made me realize that didn't want to spend beyond my means to impress people. A lot of the time, the people that who I thought were trying to impress, they didn't actually even really care that much, A, or B, I probably didn't have a great relationship with them anyway. Like in a lot of cases, there were people I had met in passing or had had some sort of connection to many years ago, but I wasn't really friends with, or they didn't take up an active part of my life anymore. So I think that actually understanding that and thinking about why I bought certain things and not buying them to impress other people, but because I wanted them, really changed my relationship with money. And I realized that after I actually had a lot more money to spend on the things I wanted when I had like learned to mute that out. It takes a minute, but it is worth it. And finally, point number 5 is understanding what I actually thought would help me in my life. And the more I did that, the more I realized I spent money on things like traveling, on visiting people, on eating out, and on sort of like experiences and being able to have fun with people. Whereas I actually cared less about particular clothes. I'm not super into fashion, so I don't mind like not wearing whatever's super trendy. But I had a few like wardrobe staples and basics, and that was very helpful. So the more I thought about like what I valued and what I wanted out of my life, the easier it got to make decisions about spending. So I then suddenly stopped being like, I don't really want to buy these things just because everyone thinks they're in fashion, or I don't want to really do this just because everyone thinks it's cool. I started like really prioritizing my own sense of like what felt cool and interesting to me. And in that way, I think I was able to make much better money decisions and actually like live well within my means, but still have lots of time and funds to have like quite a lavish, fun lifestyle in within my means. Okay, so those are my top five things for like stuff that really helped me with money. I hope you find that useful, and I'm gonna share more as we go.